Okay, real talk. I need everyone to stop using the word gaslighting wrong because it's driving me insane. You know, your friend disagreed with you about where you went to eat dinner last Tuesday. Well, that's not gaslighting. That's just bad memory. You know, your coworker said that he didn't eat your leftover pasta out of the break room fridge. Okay, actually, no. That might be gaslighting. But actual gaslighting, like the clinical, psychological, I am genuinely rewiring your brain kind of gaslighting, it's one of the most dangerous things a narcissist can do to you. And what blows my mind is that most people who are, being gaslit right now don't even know that it's happening. They just think that they're going crazy. And that's literally the point. That's the whole trick. The narcissist wins when you stop trusting yourself. So today, I'm gonna break this whole thing wide open. What gaslighting actually is, how it works step by step, and exactly how to make sure that no one ever pulls this on you again. Now, you're not crazy. You might just be dating someone who is frighteningly good at making you think that you are, and honestly, if narcissists put this much effort into literally anything else, they'd be like CEOs, world leaders, but no, they chose emotional warfare, not a, cool career path. So let me paint you a picture because I think that this might click immediately. Imagine that you're in a relationship and something happens. Maybe you see, a text pop up on their phone from someone suspicious, and you bring it up calmly, respectfully, like a mature adult human being, right? And instead of addressing it, instead of having a normal conversation about it like two people who respect each other, they look at you with this face, this confused, slightly offended, almost amused face. And they go, "What text? I don't know what you're talking about. You're being paranoid again." Again. Did you catch that word? Again. That one little word just did three things at the same time. It dismissed what you saw. It made you feel like the problem. And it implied this is a pattern, that you're always doing this, that you are the unstable one. Three punches, boom, 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 in just one word. And that, my friends, is gaslighting. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's surgical. A narcissist doesn't need to scream at you. They just need to calmly, consistently, and confidently deny your reality until you stop believing in it. The most dangerous lies are not the ones that are shouted. They're the ones that are whispered with a smile. Understand that gaslighting, it doesn't start big. It starts so small that you would probably laugh if I told you kind of like what the first sign is, It usually starts something, like let's say, for example, you two had a conversation, right? You remember them saying that they'd be home by 7 and they come home at 10. And when you say, "Hey, you said 7, they go, "No, I didn't. I said I was going to try to be home around 7-ish. And for a second you think, wait, did they say 7-ish? Did I make that up? And you let it go. You move on. No big deal, right? Wrong. That was the test. That was the narcissist throwing a pebble at your windshield, to see if it would crack. And it did, because you didn't push back. You second guessed yourself instead. And now they know. They know that when they deny something, you fold. And now that you just handed them the cheat code to your entire operating system, from that moment forward, it gets bigger. Things that happen get denied. You bring up something that they literally said to your face 3 days ago, and they'll hit you with the, "I think you're confusing that with something you saw on TV." On TV, sweetie, I was standing right there in the kitchen looking at you with my own two eyes that God gave me. You start feeling like you need to record conversations just to prove to yourself that you're just, not making things up. Think about how wild that is. You're collecting evidence of your own reality, in your own relationship, like a crime scene, and you're both the detective and the victim. Now, before I get into the part that really changes everything, pause with me for a quick second. Now, if this video is already making you see something in a way that, you've never seen it before, then I need you to go follow me on Instagram right now. I post daily reels and stories over there that don't necessarily make it here on YouTube. I'm talking about, the raw, no filter, say it how it is kind of content that catches you right when you need to hear it. I'm going to leave the link to my Instagram down in the description below and on the pinned comment. I promise you, it's going to be the most valuable account on your entire feed. Now, let me get back to this because the next part is the one that's going to make your jaw drop. So here's what happens after months of this. And this is the part that genuinely makes me angry when I think about it. After months and sometimes years of having your reality denied and your feelings dismissed and your memory just questioned over and over and over, something inside of you just, gives up. You stop trusting your own judgment. You apologize for things that aren't your fault because at some point you just accepted that everything is your fault. You used to be confident. You used to know who you were. You used to walk into the room like you owned the damn place. And now you're apologizing for what? Breathing too loud? And the narcissist? Well, the narcissist, it just watches this happen and somehow positions themselves as the hero. They'll say things like,
I'm the only one who puts up with you. Nobody else would love you like I do.
And in your broken state, you actually, believe it. Because when someone spends enough time dismantling your sense of reality, well, they become your only source of truth. And listen, I know that sounds harsh, but sometimes the truth has to be harsh because the lie that you've been living in was so comfortable that you forgot it was a cage. Here's the thing that absolutely needs to be said, and I will live by this to the end. Gaslighting, it does not work on weak people. Gaslighting works best on kind people, empathetic people, people who give others the benefit of the doubt, people who genuinely want to believe the best about the person that they love. The narcissists, they targeted you because your willingness to forgive was the weapon they used against you. So how do you protect yourself moving forward? Because, I'm not just here to explain the problem. I'm here to hand you the solution. Well, number one, you got to trust the pattern over the apology. A narcissist will always apologize just enough to keep you from leaving, but never enough to actually change. If you keep catching someone denying things that are true, well, that's not a communication issue. That's a character issue. Number two, keep your anchors. I'm talking about your friends, your family, and your faith, because gaslighting only works in isolation. You see, the narcissist wants to be the only voice in your head. That's why, they try to cut you off from everyone who loves you. They'll say that, your friends are dramatic, your mom's too involved, your brother doesn't understand your relationship. But those people are, mirrors. They reflect your reality back to you when the narcissist is trying to distort it. So you got to keep them close. And number three, know whose voice defines you. Psalms 139:14 says, I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Now, when someone is trying to convince you that you're, crazy, that you're too much, that you're, just imagining things, go back to what God says about you. Not what the narcissist says, but what your creator says. And your creator says that you were made on purpose, with purpose, and no human being on this planet has the authority to rewrite that. James 1:5 says, if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault. So pray and ask for clarity, ask for the courage, and then do the hardest thing you ever do, trust yourself again. If this video hit different, send it to someone who needs to hear it tonight. Someone who, has been on the fog for so long that they forgot what clear looks like. Share this video with them because sometimes, the truth that sets someone free is a conversation that they didn't even know that they needed to have. And as always, don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.